I want to show you a picture of these people. These are two Michigan parents. Their names are Joshua and Rachel Piland, and they just got sentenced last week to 20 years each in prison. And it's all because of their Christian faith, as they would describe it. But I want to share with you why they are actually going to prison, because hearing that they are actually going to spend significant time in jail was incredible news for a story that some of you may have been following because it's been going on for nearly a decade. So what is their story all about? Basically, in early 2017, that couple gave birth to a girl named Abigail. And she was born without any obvious problems, but they had a midwife. And the midwife who helped deliver the baby, when she went back the next day to check on baby Abigail, Abigail did not look healthy. And the midwife told Rachel, the mother, that you need to take this child to the hospital because this baby, and I'm quoting here, could suffer brain damage or die if not properly cared for. Rachel did not do that. In fact, after speaking with her husband, this is what she said. Rachel declined to seek any medical treatment for Abigail, stating, "God makes no mistakes." She indicated to the midwife that the baby was fine. God makes no mistakes. So she didn't take care of the baby at all. And guess what? Days later, Abigail was dead. And then Rachel and her husband Joshua prayed for Abigail's resurrection, and surprise, it did not work. So what was the problem with their daughter? What a medical examiner later found is basically, without using the medical terminology because it has more than 2 syllables, the baby had jaundice-related problems, which is to say it was all treatable. This baby could have been saved if she just saw a doctor. But she never had the chance to see a doctor, even when blood was coming out of her mouth, or when the baby was not eating, or when her skin was becoming further discolored. Why? Because her parents decided to put more trust in God than anyone who could actually help. So after their baby died, they were initially charged with involuntary manslaughter, and that conviction could have meant 15 years, up to 15 years behind bars. And then over the next several years, there were a bunch of tangential legal issues, including, guess what? These people have other kids. And should they be allowed to have custody of their kids? They actually have 4 living kids right now, 2 of whom were born after Abigail died. But as I say this, all 4 of them have been taken away from those parents' custody. So earlier this year, in March, a jury convicted this couple on charges of second-degree murder and first-degree child abuse. And I'll show you this in an article. This is about the kids that they have during the jury trial. Joshua Piland testified that he also would not have sought medical treatment for 2 of the couple's children born after Abigail died, even though they suffered from the same condition that led to Abigail's death. Those children were seized by the state shortly after birth and received life-saving care at a hospital. So they're 2 kids that were born after their daughter died. The state said, you cannot have these kids. They took those kids. They gave them the medical treatment they needed. Those 2 kids are still alive. They also have 2 older kids, but again, they do not have custody anymore of any of these kids. So a jury had to consider what was going to happen here, and they were convicted. And this is where it gets interesting. They got convicted, but the question is, what is going to happen? How much time are they actually going to spend in jail? That was for the judge to decide. By the way, the jury only needed about 4 hours of deliberation to know they were guilty. And this is what's interesting. A judge this month decided, oh no, they are definitely going to prison. And look at this. In separate hearings, the judge on June 11th sentenced each of those parents to 240 to 540 months in prison, or 20 to 45 years for second-degree murder, and 225 months to 540 months in prison for first-degree child abuse. So, and those are concurrent So that means they are going to spend, each of them, at least 20 years behind bars. There's 77 days for time served. And what seemed like a factually dense, complicated case turned out to be relatively simple in the end, the judge said. The jury found that Abigail died from the intentional withholding of medical care and convicted her parents of murder. He said, "What you have done has impacted multiple lives." Yes. And this judge isn't allowing their religious beliefs to work as a get out of jail free card. He is saying you could have saved this girl after she was born. You chose not to. And because of that, you murdered your child. And you know what's amazing about this? In this case, the couple's own family spoke out against them. There were a couple things here. Look at this. This is Rachel's father. Glenn Kerr told his daughter she abandoned her family for counterfeit beliefs and built a wall to protect your irrational motives. That's her dad. In a statement read in court, Rachel's brother, Joel Kerr, said the Pilands chose their beliefs over their children. He asked for sentences sufficiently long that the couple can no longer bring life into the world just to snuff it out. When your own family is begging a judge, put these people in jail so that they cannot have kids, because if they do, there is a chance those kids will die. Unbelievable. And part of the reason the judge said he did not reduce their sentences is because the couple made it very clear they would murder any future child who had a similar preventable disease, because they've learned absolutely nothing over the past decade. Like, their brains are broken because of their religion. And thankfully, the secular courts are willing to do what those Christian parents would not, which is protect their living children. And so it's a fitting end to this couple that believes their faith gives them the right to murder people. And Rachel, by the way, is 38 years old. Her husband, Joshua, is 44. Even if they get out of prison early, for whatever reason, by the time they get out of prison, they will likely not be able to have children anymore naturally. And the ones that they do have by that time will hopefully be legal adults. So that's good news. I'm glad this couple is going away. I was following this story for years, and it bugged me that there were never any charges. Like, the legal case just dragged on forever, and they were never convicted. The trial kept dragging on. And finally this year, since 2017, this has been going on. Finally this year, there was a conviction, and now they've been sentenced. And in case you're wondering what their religion is, they belong to religious groups known as Free Saints Assembly and Faith Tech Ministries. I know, never heard of them. Doesn't matter. Both of them are Pentecostal religions. Both of them believe in faith healing, where you just pray for God to cure what doctors could totally cure. But neither of those religions actually prohibits families from seeing doctors. They actually leave that decision to individuals, even if they believe in faith healing. And this couple said, no, we're not going to see a doctor. We're just going to pray for cures. And it was stupid. Again, religion should never be a get out of jail free card for harming other people. And I'm so grateful that a judge and a jury took the common sense approach here instead of pretending this couple's faith was a source of virtue. So thank goodness for the rest of their kids, who will hopefully be safer now that their parents will be out of their lives. That's it. That's all I wanted to share with you. This is an interesting comment right here. Their daughter was neglected and basically murdered, and it wasn't an open and shut case. Yeah, it wasn't. And the reason it wasn't is because there was always that possibility that this couple's sincere belief in their religion was going to give them enough to avoid actual punishment. So I'm so glad that that did not happen. This is unbelievable, because you know that couple's pro-life. You know they have to be. They're that conservative, and yet they refused to do the one thing that could have helped their child live. They were willing to sacrifice that girl for the sake of their beliefs. And there are stories of other cults, other ministries, mostly in like Oregon and Idaho. These stories tend to pop up where they belong to a religious sect, that says we are going to just pray for these kids to get better when they are at their most vulnerable. And you cannot allow their religious beliefs. It's one thing if they said, we are not going to go to a hospital because we are going to pray for ourselves to get healed. I don't care what happens at that point. That's on you. If you're an adult and that dumb, fine. Whatever happens to you, happens to you. But when you do it upon someone else, when you decide this girl needs to die because of your religion, you should not be allowed to get off the hook for it. And that has happened in Oregon and Idaho. I am glad that did not happen here.